Any other announcements anybody would like to make? If not, I'm going to turn this over to Larry Spahn and David Wallace for our program on Heart of the Heartlands Depot in Corona.
Well, since you did mention my name, I actually, this is Larry's presentation, but since she didn't mention my name, and I did invite Larry to come today, I will do a little introduction. Larry is the president of Heart of the Heartlands Railroad Club in Corona. And he poo-poos it like it's no big deal, but he does a lot over there, and it makes that place go. The people that are members look to him for guidance on what they do, and they do a lot. And Larry's really done a bang-up job out there. And with that, I've embarrassed you all. I will, Larry. That's it.
I'm speechless.
You can embarrass yourself now.
But that won't last very long. I want to thank you for asking me to come over and talk to you. I'd like to enlighten a lot of you about the Corona Depot. One of the biggest comments we get after people come through and see what we have is, we never heard about this place. But it is probably one of the finest museums in the four-state area when it deals with railroad artifacts. We've done a lot of work to put out what we've got. We have 3 buildings now, plus our depots and rolling stock. And we're open 5 days a week, Mondays and Tuesdays. John Chambers takes a couple of days off, but there's no charge. Donations are always welcome, but if you want to come out. And last week, I think we had 44 homeschool from this big to this big, and Chambers had his handful. It was a lot of fun watching him, but they all had a good time, and they went to Big Brutus from there. But I want to thank you for asking me to come, and I'll enlighten you a little bit about what we have. One of our major things that we acquired is the 1023 locomotive. This is the only surviving Kansas City Southern engine left in existence. All the rest were cut up for scrap. Most of them were in the Pittsburgh shops. A lot of them went down south to New Orleans and that area. But this one was saved by a gentleman, well, it was Kaylin's father, Kaylin Webb. And he was superintendent of maintenance at the Kansas City Southern shops, and he kept setting this engine back. And he finally got to the end, and he talked the city of Pittsburgh into taking it, and they built a track into Schlanger Park, and it went in there in 1956. And it sat there for a lot of years, but time takes its toll on us and things like this. The ties underneath it had rotted away. The engine was severely vandalized. The bell was missing, windows broken out, the lights on the back and the front. It was in terrible shape. All the wood on the inside of the cab fell down, like I said, the gauges. But when we got it, it was quite a deal to get it. Tilton & Sons from Carthage, they hauled it over. It cost $150,000 to move that engine from Pittsburgh to where it's sitting right now and set on the stand. We spent more money later on the cover and stuff like that, but it was a good investment. If you look closely, this is the newest edition. John Parsons made those steps. We've got another little engine. It's a General Electric. It came from the Riverton power plant that he also made steps for. So John's really helped us a lot. And the Gay Parade is something else. It's going to benefit us and everybody else that comes around. But the 1023, you can see it's standing proud. It was built in 1906. It was built as a coal-fired engine, steam engine. It was converted to oil, you can see with the tanks and stuff here, in I think it was 1926, and they used it for switching service throughout the Kansas City Southern system. This little thing here is where the head brakeman rode. There was only room for 2 people, and if you come and visit, go up there, ring the bell, and see what these guys had. They had wooden seats. It's however thick their coat was is how thick the pillow was that they were sitting on. But it's really neat. It's fun to watch, and the kids really have a lot of fun with the bell. And we'll move on down. This is what you never want to see in real life. You know, I mean, there's a lot of tonnage coming at you, but you can see in the background our first museum. We got another one there and another one on the other side, the Corona Depot, the Boston Depot. These are all very, very good examples of our railroad history, which Columbus was a big railroad town. You know, you had the Katy, you had the Frisco came through here. It was really nice. But see what else? Oh, all this other junk you see is for this. This is the steam engine. This is what makes the wheels go around. All this other stuff gets the water to boil into steam, and you know it's converted, and it comes up. You know, it's really a neat deal. It makes the drivers go round and round. This is an air pump. This is used to pump air through the entire train to pump up the brakes. Contrary to popular belief that you don't put on the brakes, what you do, you release the pressure that's holding them off, and that spring pressure puts the brakes on. But this is what powers that, and it's loud, it's noisy. And this is just the engine brake. This is the only thing that stops the engine. The rest, all that other stuff is for the train, and it may be 50 cars or whatever this engine could pull. And you can see the last day of service. This is when we painted it, 2013. This is the inside. All this wood, most of it was missing. These seats were gone. All your handles, all that stuff was taken. Somebody collected it. These are the handles. You know, they used to use a shovel. This was replaced with 4 valves. There was 4 burners in the firebox after 1926. The fireman would adjust the flame and the need of the engine to however much steam was required by this. This put the water in, and there's a whole lot of things when you really want to get into the how a steam engine works, but we won't get much into it. This is where the firebox was. This door opened, you threw your, like that. Like I said, the oil was a lot easier. It was pretty dirty, but it was black oil. It was almost like tar. They heated it with steam before they could even blow it in there. They just vaporized and it went in. This is more of the back head of the engine. It's very hot. Steam pressure is around 275 pounds. That's pretty high. And it's like sitting on a pressure cooker. This is another little addition that we have. This came from the Empire District Electric Plant. They bought it new in 1951. And it's kind of unique in the fact that it's a diesel hydraulic. It's got a diesel engine that drives a hydraulic pump that has hydraulic motors that go to the wheels. And we got it, we had it repainted, sandblasted down to bare metal, and it's available. The stairs on the other side, but the kids like getting up in there because it's their size. This is the inside of that little engine. You can see there's not a whole lot of room, but the kids think it's just right. And Dave took these pictures. He comes out and he really, really has a knack. You can see that this came from Boston, Missouri. This is the 1870s depot. It was in service up until the time they shut that depot down, which was, well, it was before electricity. It was never wired for electricity. It did have telegraph wires going to it, but that was it. And we had Tilton and Son haul that over there, and that was $10,000. So this stuff don't come cheap, and we derive a lot of our revenue from our train rides, which courtesy of Watco is now one of the largest short-line railroads in North America. They have over 55 railroads. They have over 5,000 employees. They have port facilities in the Gulf of Mexico and on the West Coast. They operate the railroads in Australia, so, and they are a big employer across the nation. So, and it helps a lot that Kaylynn's father, Gus Johnson, and her husband, Dick Webb, he spent his career working for the Kansas City Southern. So they're proud of what we do. They help us with a lot of things in providing the engine and the crews and stuff to have the train rides, which if you want to ride the train this weekend, there's going to be 2 rides out of Chanute for their Artist Alley. And the train will leave from their library, which you're all familiar with, which is the old Santa Fe station, and the Osa Johnson Museum. It's all open, and the train will leave there for a 1-hour ride. It'll be one at 9, 9:30, and another one at 1, I think.
Well, I like to talk about Australia. I like Australia, although I've never been there. I gotta go. But Rick Webb likes Australia too. He loves it down there, and he told me where he gets the flights out of Dallas, how he goes over there. But they've got here the railroads that Watco has are localized. They generally take the short lines at the end of the line to do the deliveries and pickups of freight for the bigger companies, and then hands it off to them. They do a lot of that here in the States. In Australia, they have rail all the way from Perth to Melbourne to Sydney up to Darwin, all the way up to Brisbane, which is, if you don't know Australia, it's all the one coast, all the way to the other coast, all the way to the south coast, and all the way to the north coast. And they have a lot of infrastructure in Australia.
That it?
That's all I had on.
Air Sheriff, okay.
That's my contribution.
Anyway, like I said, they are a big company. They are, if you know people looking for work, you know, but it's work. I mean, work for a railroad, you know, a lot of hours, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of time away from home. But it pays well, and there's a lot of benefits. You can hang in there and do it. You have a lot of night work. You can see the train order board here. This is what used to be. This is a Corona depot. It looked like this till 1941 when they moved it. They said, well, we're going to tear it down and move it down to the interchange with the Missouri Pacific. And they tore it down. And everybody knows, they tore it down in October. And everybody knows what happened in December 1941. Embargoed everything, told them to build it back. The farmers took most of the wood. You know, we gave it away. It's build it back. And so this is all the wood that they could gather up. You notice this two sides has lap siding. It runs horizontally. The other side's vertical. And this has got about an 8-foot ceiling. This has got a 12-foot ceiling. You can come out, you can see the difference. It's a little bit of the history. A lot of people made a living out there. The section crews worked out of there. They went to as far, I think, around Cherokee and back towards Chetopa. But this is some more rolling stock. This is a 1932 Plymouth. It's a gasoline engine chain drive. It was an order of first of the 5 internal combustion engines, gasoline powered, that the Missouri Pacific bought. And Mackie Clemens, it spent its remainder of its life up there. And when I was working the surface mining section, when they shut the mine down, it was sitting up there with in the scrap, and I talked them into donating it to but that was another story, getting that to where it's at now. But, and the signals, these all worked at one time, but as the time goes on, it takes its toll also. We're also looking at repainting a lot of this. Stuff is like, it's like Emerald paint. I can't say enough for it. This is not Emerald paint. And there's another look at the little Mackie engine, is what we call it. But it's kind of got. We had the guy who worked at Mackie Clemens came out and he looked at that and he said, "Let me tell you something about this blankety blank engine." He said, "This caused me 5 back surgeries." But it was. He said you could move the cars, but it didn't have enough. And you start looking at all the brake cylinders and tanks it's got on it, so it wouldn't stop. But it was a rough riding little turkey. This is some of the damage that we've got, you know, kids with rocks. And we will replace this with plexiglass, but kids and rocks, you know, they go way back. This is a picture of the Corona Depot before we got it. This is the day we got it. The Thompson family donated it to the Heartlands, and we moved it from across from the Gay Parida back to where it is now. And you can see the shape it was in. They used it for hay storage. You could stand here, you could look up and see daylight through the roof, but you had to watch where you were standing because this was all rotted away too. But there's been a lot of work and time. You know, this is what, you know, we're done with it. But this has all been added. You know, I mean, there's a lot of work and a lot of donated articles in there, as you can see. This looks like a safe, but it's actually a refrigerator. But it fits right in there. This is some of the stuff that's in our first building. And this don't look like a lot, but all these were hand carved out of wood by a gentleman that started these when he was 72 years old. His name is John Downs. He's from Council Groves. His wife ran the local newspaper. Real neat people. And they donated a model of Big Brutus. And he wanted to give these to him too, but said, well, this is really not for us. Why don't you talk to the Heartlands? And I went out and took a look at what they had, and I said, yeah, we'd be tickled to death to have them. And they're out there for you to see. The oldest son has the big boy locomotive, which will be coming through the area here in October. It'll be in Coffeyville, and it'll head up towards Kansas City. And its place is back in here. But we will get it eventually. But the detail on these, I asked him, I said, how did you do these? He said, I got a picture out of a magazine, and I said, well, what scale? And he said, I don't know. He said, I built the wheels first, made everything else fit. He's a real neat guy to talk to. He built his own organ, taught himself music. He did oil painting. He was a real nice.
John Downs was his name. John Downs, and that's the Downs collection.
There he is, right here. This is John in his workshop. His oldest son looked at that and he said he must have had both lights on when he took that picture. But he's working on one of that's a, I think it's 4664, but that don't mean nothing to you folks, but it's a big locomotive. And he wanted the evolution of steam. So he started out with the pump engine. And he went up to the John Bill and the students, the Stevensons, and all the way right up to the big boy. And he did a nice job. They're a perfect example of railroad history and Kansas folk art. The little things that look like rivets, those are brads. He drilled each hole, cut it off, and glued that in there. And there's hundreds of them in these. You need to come out and look. Don't cost nothing. Just take a little time and go see Big Brutus. If the Gatorita's running, yeah, you can go dancing too. But here's the other thing. He did a lot of buggies. His ranch was on the Santa Fe Trail, and you can still see the ruts and rails out through there. But he did 50 little covered wagons that they used for centerpieces for their, I don't know, by whatever in centennial it was. And they auctioned them off, and all of them brought over $50 to $100 a piece, and it went into the fund. But this is a velocipede. This belonged to one of our members. He passed on. He donated it to us. Gordon was his name. And this was used for switch tenders. What you do, you get on this puppy, and you can see the seats nice and padded. Your feet went here, your hand went here, and you went like this. And you went, and the switch yards might have 100, 150 lanterns at each switch, and they had to fill them with kerosene, they had to trim the wicks, they had to do that, and he'd pedal this back and forth. They probably had pretty good sized arms and legs. And this is a model train layout. It was donated to us by a railroad club in Oklahoma. But this is a model of our passenger train. And this here is a model of the 1023, and the coaches it would have pulled, the cars. And we run it, but we're going to put plexiglass around here because little kids want to use, they like to touch things. And all this stuff is fragile, to say the least. This come off the Missouri Pacific offices in Coffeyville. They had a big repair area over there, and that was saved, and it was restored, and we've got it on display. This is a baggage cart. This gentleman right here, he's a member. He had all the stuff in this collection in his basement, and I think it was probably his wife that convinced him to donate it, but it's all there for your perusal. I mean, you look around, this is a dining car, 2 settings. All the dining car, every railroad china and silverware was different. All highly collectible now, and pretty expensive. But you can see this is a Morgan edition. We named it after Ron Morgan. He's a real neat guy. He really loved railroading. Here's some more stuff of the Caldwell collection. You can see the crystal and the silverware, and he just had more stuff that you can shake a stick at, but you can get an idea of what's out here, and it's amazing, and it's well presented. John Chambers, he's our historian, and this is one of our later deals. Guy made this just to make something. He's got over 400 or 500 hours in this. Name's Brian Trolia. I worked with him at the surface mining section, and he did this on a CNC machine, and all this stuff, he said before he varnished it, all the wheels went and the cylinders and all that stuff worked. And his wife got tired of it in the bedroom, so it's out there for you to look at. But he did a real nice job. It's made out of native woods that were cured. I think the Amish did the ash, cherry, and walnut. And he said the little things, if you look real close, what looks like tie plates, those are individual pieces of wood, and there's a tie spike in each one of those. So he really outdid himself. These people that you get to know them, you can't. Their talents are amazing. This gentleman, he presented this to the Heartlands. He collected belt buckles, and he got to see it 3 weeks after he come and seen it. He passed on. So there's his legacy. A lot of people have things along, and you know, it ends up in a rummage sale. It gets, and the heritage is lost. Somebody's grandfather, great-grandfather. If you got a place for it, take care of it and keep it in the family if you can. If you can't, the family's gone. Look for a museum like this, somewhere to save it. And what is this? Oh, this is.
That's that letter.
That's a belt buckle, the letter. Tells you all about it. We got motor cars. We used to have about 30, 40 members that had motor cars. We'd go on motor cars across all over. We'd load them up on a trailer and go maybe travel 50 or 100 miles. Thought it was fun, but I was younger then. But that's what they took to work. This came off the Joplin-Pittsburgh trolley line that used to come through Columbus. And it was behind the 1023 locomotive when it was on display in Schlanger Park. But it was nothing, it was just a pile of stuff. Reed McMurray and Billy Morrison, they were machinists, used to work for P&M. They said, leave it here. And 6 months later, you come and get it. It was running. It was froze up like a wedge. But there's some really neat people. This is 1943 Fairmont that was in the Joplin depot. It was, I guess for another word, is rescued. I know you don't go there may not be much rescue, but rescued, borrowed, however it got there, but it ended up here. Then this is a little inspection car right here. These seats were added. You sit on this right here. This is where you sit. You put your tools down here and more stuff. We got more stuff. This is a Watco quarter. What we tried to do is represent the 5 major railroads that served this area. And we've got areas set aside for that, along with all the ancillary, like the motor cars, the spike. We got everything out here. You got questions, you got time. This is Dick Webb. He's a gentleman that he really believed in what we were doing, and he made most of this possible. Without the Webb's family support, we probably wouldn't be there. But they really believe in what we've done. I think we've showed our merit by what we've done out there. More stuff. This is a railroad, this is a wreck. One of our members' grandfather was in this wreck. This was in Neodesha at a crossing. Signals got messed up. Not a scratch. 1 year later, he's working the switchyard, I think in Springfield. Stepped back, and he met a passenger train. He should have retired, but he expired. But you can see the stuff that we have. I mean, there's just, it's hard to explain, but if you come out and look, you'll get an idea. And it's right here. you know, goodness sakes, 5 miles away. And a lot of people just never make it. They drive right on by. Here's some more things. This is off the Kansas City Southern. A lady came in, and she was an elderly lady, and she walked around. So, well, I like what you got, but I don't see any Kansas City Southern uniforms. I said, well, they only had 2 passenger trains, so they weren't a lot to start with. They had the Flying Crow and the Southern Belle. And she looked around and said, would you like a? I said, well, yeah, be interested. And she said, well, come with me. And what she done, she looked, she came and seen what we had and thought, this is the place I want it. And she had it in the trunk of her car. This was her, that might have been her grandfather's, I don't know. But he had 35 years of service. You look, see the fingers? The kids just love to shake hands. And this is another way you could tell if a brakeman had a lot of experience by the fingers he didn't have. Because you used to have to sit between them, pull a pin, slide it in, but there's a lot of history out there, folks. This is a real good collection of buttons. Don't mean much. Conductors were gold, brakemen's were silver. Each railroad had their own locks and keys. They were all different. All these are collectible. Lanterns. I went to just a little aside, to an auction with Dick Roniker, and they was selling lanterns. It was up by Kansas City. And one lantern sold for $42,000. 2 of them sold for $18,000 a piece. You can't believe the value of what some of this stuff is. Most of it's mundane stuff that everybody used, but they got thrown away. Locks. Ed Offenbacher, he collected locks. He thought a lot of them. He had 2 5-gallon buckets. That's the way he kept them, but we put them on display. Each railroad has its own lock and key. The brass ones are a little more valuable, but some of the steel ones, they have a lot of value too. This is a recent one. A gentleman called from Columbus right here. Said, would you guys be interested in a depot bench? I said, yeah, you sure it's a depot bench? Yeah, I'm sure. And it was right out here between McDonald's and the Chevy dealer. I think there was a restaurant there. And he was having to move his stuff out. And he called and he said, you're 501c3? I said, yeah. He said, I've got something, you can take this off as a tax exemption. He said, I'll write you the letter, so I want to come and look at it first. But that's 12 passengers. He got the football coach and 2, I'm going to say, football players. They carried that off the trailer into the bin and set it down. I mean, that puppy is heavy.
It's like 18 foot long?
Oh yeah, it's about 18 feet. But it's out there. You can sit on it if you like. This is just another picture. What's happened to our railroads? One railroad put together all these other railroads. This is a picture of all the railroads that they put together. But mergers, that, for better or worse, you're going to put up with them. Here's another thing, China. This is Roxbury, that's Kansas City Southern China. There was every railroad had their own patterns. Here's some more. This is Conrad, Bill Conrad. He's out of Pittsburgh. He was a machinist on the KCS for years. And he brought some of his stuff over, and it's a really nice thing. But there's 2, trains of thought. Some people say, don't touch it, leave it the way it is. But you would have never seen silver look like that on a passenger train. Somebody had been fired. They had a guy polish that every day. And there's the Flying Crow China, and this is Southern Belle China. It's really neat when you get into it. Oh, we had a member, he's an individual, but he made this railroad car. And he put all this stenciling and stuff on it. I think they bought the car, but he went ahead and was part of the Heartlands. It's kind of neat. There's another motor car. Another one. This is a Watco corner. That when they remodel, they took all this stuff out, and Rick Webb called and said, "We've got some stuff you guys might be interested in." And those were custom-made crocheted rugs. And they took them out and they said, "Yeah, we got a place for them." So they're out there now. Here's a J&P lock, and this was found by a metal detector. He's a friend of ours. He likes to go dig in the dirt. And he found this and he showed it to me, and I talked him into selling it to me. He didn't like selling anything, but I said, "I'll put it where people can see it, and they'll see your name, and they'll see that lock." It didn't look like that. I didn't clean it up, I just cleaned it off.
Why is this one special and set aside from all those others that are in the case where you've got a whole 5-gallon bucket full of them? Why is this one special?
Because this is mine. And the J&P, I've seen 2 J&P locks and keys. And there was a lot of them, but they've got used.
Joplin and Pittsburgh.
Joplin Pittsburgh Railway, it's J&P. It was a trolley system. Came to Columbus and went on down into the lead and zinc fields, but they carried past now. I remember my father talking about it, and for a nickel, you could get on at Daisy Hill. That's where I was born and grown up, a mile and a half north of Weir. It's coal camp, and you could go to Pittsburgh for a nickel, or you could hook on behind like kids and just
Steel ride.
And he said the big boys, he told me, they'd take a piece of clothesline wire in a tie plate and throw it over that trolley wire, which was 600 volts, I think, maybe more than that. And they'd burn the wire off, and it'd shut the trolley down. But that was, what else did they have to do? But he said he didn't have nothing to do. He'd never done that. This comes from the shops over at Coffeyville. Watco shut that down, a lot of it. This is some more train stuff. I mean, you have to come and enjoy it. If you don't, it's neat to look at, but if you got an interest in trains, we've got a lot of stuff for you to see. And library, you cannot believe our library, railroad library, and photographs. We have a lot of people come and do research for books that they're writing. There's a railroader.
Sorry.
You got somebody's keys, you better watch out. You might not get home. And I guess that's the end of the slideshow. But as you can see, there's a lot to see. It's real interesting. We have outdoor displays that you can walk through. It's kind of self-guided if you like it that way. If you want someone to explain things, like we said, John Chambers is out there. Sometimes I'm out there, but I'm retired, I'm busy. But again, it's really been nice talking to you. If you get a chance, hey, go for a train ride. And if you got something railroad thrown in the corner, don't throw it away. Find somebody that'll at least display it. Here's a nice place. You got a lot of stuff in here. But other than that, if you got any questions, anybody have anything you'd like to know? If you're sure you don't know, I can tell you.
And we have a book on the trolleys that went through here, including, and there's a big section just on the
Mine.
Joplin, Pittsburgh.
It's my granddaughter.
Take that to Grandma. There you go.
Was there a line from Monroe to Columbus? Was there a line?
Mineral to Columbus. Yeah. The Katy went through there. And there was a mine in the middle of town, basically. You want to sit on my lap? Come on. You let me pick you up? Whoa! You like that? Yes, it was Katy, and it was there for a long time. The depot was there just across the road from, there's a beauty shop there. But they moved it down, and they used it as a scale house for Mine 19, and it burned down. But that's where the depot went. Any other questions?
Well, I know that. Oh.
Not a question, but the Sunday morning they moved that engine,
Mm-hmm.
we happened to see it.
Oh, really?
From the Pittsburgh church, yeah. They had
Oh,
this
we stopped
whole
traffic.
thing over, you know, fixed it up inside, and,
Oh, you couldn't believe the trailer. You couldn't hardly see the steam engine in there.
yeah.
I think the trailer weighed more than the steam engine. But they got it all the way. They started, set her down, and put it all back together. And like I said, and I asked Tilt, I said, you learn anything out of this as the old man? He said, yep, I didn't charge you people near enough. I thought it was twice as high as it should have been, and he got a big kick out of that. But they were real nice people. If you need something big to move, they're moving the drag line out there at Wilkinson's. They're going to take it to Franklin. They're in the process of tearing it down now, and they're going to move it over there probably in the next month or so, I guess. But any other things that you want me to make up? Oh, you want that back?
Yeah, I grew up next to the railroad track, you know, it's back of our place.
Uh-huh.
It was real close to the Y that we got displayed out here.
Uh-huh.
So I went to sleep lots of nights, you know, hear that click, 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 click. But,
Yeah, we almost had that. Why? Remember when you guys moved it from the swimming pool? I went and met with the city, and everything was going along real good, but then you know, they really get the caboose. And no, the Y goes with that. It's not a Y. It's not a switch. It's a place where 3 railroads cross in one place. I think there's just 3 or 4 of them in the United States that I've heard that story. I couldn't prove it. But you guys need, and this is my opinion, you got something special. Raise it up, put it on an angle, put some rails so you can see what it is. When you walk up to it, you really can't tell what you're looking at. And I think you'd get a lot more people stop and take pictures. But that's my opinion, and that and a dime won't get you nothing.
I used to enjoy the troop trains.
Oh, did you remember those?
Yeah, steam engines. They had a white flag on each side of the front.
Mm-hmm, that was a special.
Yeah. But they back up, you know, from that
Y.
or,
Yep.
and they would sit there. Of course, being a little kid, you know, go up there and talk to the service guys. So.
That's why he was in the service.
I talked to Katie Oberzan. She lived there in just west of Roseland. And she was in her 90s. And she was sharp as a tack. And she remembered the troop trains, World War I. He said they'd be maybe, at one time there was 5, 6 passenger trains a day went through Corona. But the troop trains, they'd stop there. And the soldiers would get out and they'd do their exercise and stuff. And she was a little girl, and this soldier gave her a piece of hardtack. Said, you keep that, and it'll last forever. And she says, I still got it. And she was, but she's passed on, but she had a wealth of information. If you can talk to these people and get them to tell you the stories, but.
I was able to go up that little tower that they had by the, when I was a
Okay,
kid.
the control tower?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was all mechanical.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, but
rods would throw
yeah.
the switches from there.
But
Yeah.
They just had a row of levers up there,
Mhm.
switching.
Yep.
So,
There was a lot of history here in this town, a lot of trains. I remember one time my parents came over to pay the taxes. And I wasn't very big, maybe 5. And we went down to the depot, which was right here. And they said the passenger train was coming in, but it broke down. And we stayed there, and pretty soon they towed the passenger train. What it did, it broke a rod, and they was pulling it, but they had a chain, and that rod was going back and forth because, you know, if it was flopping around, it's not going to move. And I remember that, and that's been a lot of years ago.
Gigi Saketa tells the story when he joined the service, and I don't know where he went to join, but when he after he joined, they put him on a train, and he came right through Corona, and he was really disappointed because here he was right in Corona, just right by where he lived, but he couldn't tell his folks. There was no way then. Of course, now we just get on the cell phone and say, "Hey, I'm over here." Well, he was right there, and he says, "I'm right here," and he couldn't see his family. That's part of his story, you know, is coming through on that.
Gigi's got a lot of stories.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I guess he donated a couple of his cars to Brutus. I mean, that little roadster pickup, really nice.
If you haven't been out there lately, just a couple weeks ago, they moved one of Gigi cars into the visitor center at Brutus.
And I let him talk me out of the hood that he put on that. He's a character. He was something else. Is there anything I hear you want to stop and look at? Are you ready to go home? Sick of listening and looking at me? There's a lot of stuff out there. If you like it, come on out. Come see John Chambers. Mondays and Tuesdays, he's not there. But if you've got a group and it's with, I'll come out and show you around.
What's he there from 9 to 4 every day, Wednesday through Sunday?
Mhm.
10 to 4.
If you wanna be shown through he'll explain the stuff to you if you like to just walk and take pictures. But it's right here. It's right here in your backyard. And a lot of people don't even realize it. It's one of the finest railroad museums you're going to find. And also, in Independence, they restored that engine. It's in their park, but they used it. It's made for the kids to get up on, and we don't want anybody climbing on ours because it's a long way to the ground, and you could really get hurt. But they did a nice job, and it's over there in their park. So there's another one to go look at.
So if this is not really a Y,
No,
what is it?
it's a three-way
It's a
crossing.
three-way crossing.
Three railroads crossed in one spot. A Y is just a Y, it's nothing.
And you say there's not another one anywhere, is there?
I don't know how many's left. I think at one time there was 3 or 5. I
I've
don't
read
know
that
for
today.
sure.
Just today I read something about that and I think it said 3.
Yeah,
Just like you
they
said.
were really rare, and it's right out here. But you can't see it, it's laying down
And when
flat.
it was in operation, it was right up here, wasn't
Yeah,
it? It was right here
there.
in Columbus, just
The two
before you get out of
Frisco tracks crossed and the Katy crossed, right down there where the yard office is, just north of that area right there. But that's where it was, and no, it's not a switch, it's a three-way crossing. A triple cross, if you want to say that, but
Ah, triple cross.
triple cross.
You didn't have to
means-
switch.
Shirts, yeah.
You didn't have to switch.
No, you crossed. There was an intricate layout with all the stuff that, that's what happened with that one where the trains met, but that was just a two-way crossing.